Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. For this video, I wanted to do a little discussion video for this one because it looks like Rockstar has done it again. They delayed GTA 6 once again. Now it has been pushed back from May all the way to November 19th. So exactly almost 1 year from today. And you know what? It may not be the last one either. We might see another delay eventually, right? But it's inching closer and closer. But it seems like for every time that we inch closer and closer, they seem to be pushing it back and back. Now, unlike the other ones, this one's a bit weird because unlike the other times that GTA or Rockstar has delayed this game, it has been with, obviously with, talks about polish and, talking about like making this game the best it could be. And while it has said the same thing, this one comes off the back of, it seems, there's been firings going on at Rockstar. 30 to 40 employees have been, fired, apparently. Most of them have been accused of, leaking information about how the morale at the studio is low and, having to crunch and doing all this and that, right? Which, again, if that is the case, obviously, it's a crappy thing to do. Obviously, I hope most of these, developers have some time to, maybe just relax. And if they want to keep working in games, I hope they find a studio that actually gives them the time to work and, make them have fun. But yeah, this has been insane looking at this because it seems like, Take-Two's interactive stock fell as much as 18% in the after-hours trading due to concerns of postponed revenue from the anticipated blockbuster. So this is clearly affecting people's, like all this stuff, right? Worth mentioning that it's being delayed because they just fired 40 people in a union busting effort and now the staff is revolting. I hope the staff keeps up. Again, if this is the actual reason why it's been delayed, because obviously, in the actual tweet that they posted, right? We're adding additional time to realize what a long wait, but these extra months will allow us to finish the game with the level of polish you've come to expect and deserve. And I think a lot of people would have bought that a lot. But now this is just flat on its face considering everything that's going on, right? Now, I think they're delaying the game because the staff is practically revolting against Rockstar due to, crunch and due to, obviously low morale and stuff like that. Which, listen, it is a really tough situation. A verified Rockstar employee posted on GTA forums saying studio morale is at rock bottom and recent firings could cause further GTA 6 delays. They are not easily replaced and will certainly affect us in making our project deadlines. So yeah, these are very senior artists, animators, QA testers, designers, programmers, and producers, including leads. All super talented people who were so proud of the work over our titles. So yeah, it looks like it's been a whole mess, it seems, and honestly, I don't even know if people are going to constantly look at this franchise and look at it as like it's going to be constantly delayed. It's going to be constantly delayed. It's going to be constantly delayed. At some point, I think people are going to just be done. I'm not going to say I may be wrong. And I honestly think I will be wrong because, listen, GTA is a huge franchise. Don't get me wrong or anything like that, right? I guarantee you this game is going to sell like crazy, right? Now, of course, there's a whole question of whether or not this game will cost $100, $80, whatever the case may be. I think if it sells at $80 or $60 or the $70, if it stays at the same standard, I think people are going to buy it like crazy. Honestly, I think that would be a decent price for it, right? Sure. We will talk about, like pricing and games and stuff like that, right? But of course, if they go the $100 amount, that's going to be another conversation. But I'm sure people are going to still buy it anyways. We're just that kind of cooked already anyways. But regardless, there has to be some level of limit to how much people are just willing to wait for a game that it seems like it's already overextended its welcome. Like at this point, the meme of GTA being delayed, of like everything happening before GTA 6 or whatever, it's already reaching its crucial, it's already reaching its final point at this point, right? This game has been announced for how many years now? It's already been announced 2 years ago almost at this point. When was the first reveal for GTA? Let me take a look. I'm gonna go on YouTube real quick, but I just don't want to leak any information for myself. I just want to make sure that everything is right here. Let me see. Where is GTA 6 trailer? There you are. So Okay, so the GTA 6 trailer. I'm gonna pause. Right? Okay, yeah, got it. Sure. Um, this was about a year ago. This was in. Let me show you guys real quick, just to show you what's going on here. I don't know what the hell's up with that. But yeah, this was revealed on December 4th, right here. December 4th, 2023. Almost 2 years now. Almost 1 month away from being 2 years now. And at this point, it's going to be 3 years since they announced the game. And people are going to be like, well, when? When? And it showed like it was already in a good state, obviously showing off all the everything that's happened here. Like everything graphically looks great and stuff like that. And they even had a second trailer like 6 months ago, which is, it gives you a big sign that, okay, they're progressing very well, it seems. But now we're at this point where now we're looking at we're looking at these news, and now that the staff is not enjoying their time working with this team, it kind of makes you wonder if these delays are going to continue on, which I do think it's very possible now, because clearly the morale at the studio, at Rockstar, is not going to be good, which that also might indicate that the quality of the game may not be up to par. Now, of course, is it possible that it's still going to be really good? Who knows? That's very possible, but these kind of things will affect this kind of game, right? And whatever comes from it, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But another delay for GTA 6. It is what it is. But I just hope the staff. I hope the staff find better ground. Hopefully they're doing well, and I hope that at least in the next coming months or stuff like that, they can just find some time to actually just like progress through the game normally without having to worry about any type of like potential failures and stuff like that, right? Because whoops, hang on, let me see. I'm just gonna adjust that, because obviously this is just kind of sad to see, right? All right. So here's the other piece of news I wanted to talk about a little more on the kind of like the smaller side in a sense. I mean, we're talking about Shroud, who is a big streamer too, at least in the FPS community and stuff like that, right? But he said that he's urging fans to vote for Arc Raiders as Game of the Year over Expedition 33, adding that we all have to band together to make this game win. Us multiplayer gamers are the minority, but I believe we can win. Now, listen, I kind of have a little bit of an opinion on this. Not necessarily for the game itself, not necessarily for Arc Raiders or anything like that, right? I haven't played Arc Raiders yet, and I'm sure it's going to be a really good game. I'm planning on maybe playing it at some point. That being said, I do have a bit of a concern with how Shroud is going about this, right? Listen, if he thinks Arc Raiders is his game of the year, I have no issue with that. That's fine. That's totally on him if he thinks that. I don't necessarily agree. I do think Expedition 33 is game of the year favorite, at least in my opinion, right? If it doesn't win, sure, right? Because either way, this year has been pretty stacked for gaming. Hades 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, Donkey Kong Bonanza is also a really good one. Silent Hill F, Split Fiction. You have a lot of potential nominees for this kind of game, right? But the way he's making it imply is that multiplayer games should be the standard for Game of the Years over single player games, which he has mentioned on later on, where he talked about especially even in this line, right, where us multiplayer games are the minority, but I believe we can win. I kind of have an issue with that because you're implying that multiplayer gamers are the minority, which that's kind of not true. What you're implying that there's less multiplayer gamers than there are single player gamers, which that's entirely false. Because if that was the case, Fortnite would be dead in the ground. COD would be even more down in the ground than they already are. Battlefield 6 wouldn't have an audience. Arc Raiders wouldn't have an audience. It's a weird take to saying that multiplayer gamers are the minority, when that couldn't be further from the truth. If anything, I think multiplayer gaming has become as popular, if not more popular, than it ever was throughout the past couple of years, throughout pretty much the past decade at this rate, ever since the entire multiplayer thing, right? The only reason why multiplayer has become more fun, at least in that sense, is because obviously, yeah, You do play against AI, and as compared, you do play against like actual players and stuff like that. Yeah, it could be a game of skill, this and that, right? I would argue single player games do also have a lot of skill as well, because even if AI is like, you do fight AI and stuff like that, they are pretty tough, right? But that just makes it fun too, right? Sometimes people just don't have access to internet. Some people just don't actually like multiplayer games, and that's okay, right? I'm in both sides, obviously. I'm in both sides of playing. Like I play multiplayer games and single player games, right? I play FIFA or FC 26, right? I play that out for content, but of course I'm kind of straying away from it. But for what it's worth, I do play the game. I do play FC 26 because I generally do find it fun in a sense, right? At least right now it's fun. Last year was a mess. Last year FC 25 was an absolute dumpster fire of a game, but I persisted, and now with FC 26, there's a bit of enjoyment there, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. Do I think it's game of the year? No, and it's not game of the year, not even close. Do I think it could be the best sports game of the year? That's entirely different. That could possibly win it. I would actually say it's a good one. I don't know if there's any sports games that I would know. I'm just pretty much FIFA pilled. But in any case, with that being said, I have played Expedition 33. And that game is game of the year material for me. If anything, it should win game of the year. That being said, I don't actively call out, other games and telling them they don't deserve to win just because I say so. That is not something that I want to do. If a game wins, it's because it deserves to win. You have people who have actually played games and all this stuff. For what I understand, Shroud probably has not played Expedition 33. And, I wouldn't blame him for that. If he had played the game and he thought the game was bad or anything like that, okay, sure. But at least I know you played it, so at least I know you had at least some sort of opinion on it that actually legitimizes your claim. But the fact that I don't think you've even played the game or even touched the game doesn't show a lot of merit to it. This just comes as tone deaf, right? Where saying do not let that game win, even though you never touched the game, that's really tone deaf. That just tells you that you clearly just thought that you have tunnel vision, basically. You have tunnel vision for this game. And that is not a healthy mentality, right? For at least naming game of the year stuff. If you think the game of the year is rigged or whatever, I mean, yeah, for a lot of award shows, that could be possible. There's a lot of award shows that are, pretty rigged in their own regard. But I would argue the Game Awards is probably the least rigged, Game Awards or like awards in general. Is it even more rigged than say the Oscars or the Grammys or the Emmys or whatever? I mean, I would argue no. I would say the Game Awards is probably more in touch with everything else, man. Yeah, there's some like controversial decisions that happens. Of course, it's not perfect, but I will also just say, like if you don't agree with it, that's there's not that much we can do. That's not much we can do. If Expedition 33 doesn't win Game of the Year, there's not much we can do. That's unfortunate, right? That being said, I just don't like the idea of you calling out Expedition 33 and saying that you don't deserve to win. Do not let that game win. As if like that's going to be a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. If Expedition 33, I argue, is probably the best thing. Because you know what it would prove? It would prove that indie games are not dead. If anything, indie games are, or not indie games, but games that offer AAA experiences from a small group of people, 30 people by the way, for their first game. And it just proves that these kind of studios, if you give them enough time, if you give them enough care, if you give enough passion, if you give enough, like love to a game, then you make a game that generally a lot of people will enjoy, right? That's the whole point of making a video game. You're supposed to enjoy it. But if you don't think that way, then you're just walking down the path of big, giant conglomerate, giant freaking industries just milking shooters and FPSs and battle royales dry to the bone with no passion, no creativity, no, just emptiness, basically. And we're just supposed to be husks, not being able to feel the emotion of these kind of games, which it's not fun, right? And listen, of course, there are some exceptions for multiplayer games, Like, for example, a lot of people like Arc Raiders, right? If people like Arc Raiders in general, then that just means that that means the people behind it were very passionate about the project, and they actually managed to do so well with the game that actually did so well. Like here, let me take a look at their Metacritic. I have it pulled up here. 87 based on 23 critics, but 8.8 out of 363 user ratings. That's fairly decent. That's really good. People are enjoying it, right? And again, I have no problem with that. If people are enjoying this game and saying that this is a game of the year, right? Sure, that's fine. That's okay. But you know what you should also explore? You shouldn't ignore the rest of the games, right? Because you're competing against a game like this, right? 84 critic reviews. Oh, sorry, I didn't even show the last one. Sorry, guys. My bad. Let me just show you real quick, right? There it is. Yeah, 87, 88, 8.8, right? That's the score for Arc Raiders, right? And like I said, it's really good, really good. I have no problem with it, again, right? But now let's look at Claire Obscura Expedition 33's reviews. 92 on Metascore. A Metacritic must play based on 84 critic reviews. 21,588 user ratings. Place it at a 9.6. 9.6. That is an insane number to put, right? Masterpiece. In film, you have Shawshank Redemption. In television, you have Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. In The Sopranos. In anime, manga, you have Attack on Titan and Berserk. Now you have the greatest video game in human history, right? It's huge praise for these kind of games, right? High praise, all green, great stuff. Yeah, they have a 7 right there, sure, 7. And yeah, there's some people that are just like not into it. That's okay. But for what it's worth, the majority of people do enjoy this game, right? 9.6. That's a really high score to hit. Let's take a look at games like Hades 2, right? Hades 2. It's a 95 on Metacritic, 8.7 on user score. More people are good on this game, but seemingly it's generally favorable and the critics do love it. So that's why it has a high chance of winning, right? What's the other one? Hollow Knight Silksong. 91 on Metacritic with a 9.0 universal acclaim, right? With a user score. Sure. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Let's see. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Also a 91 rated with a 9.0, right? Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's an 88 rated game with an 8.7. Same score as Arc Raiders, right? And you know what I don't do with these kind of games? I don't dismiss them. They are all equally as deserving of getting a nomination for Game of the Year. If they get nominated, that's all good for them. If they win, all power to them. If Arc Raiders ends up getting Game of the Year, then sure, that's good. That's okay. That just shows that this game did its job and people love it, right? But to actively call out another game and telling people not to let that game win, you don't decide that, dude. You don't decide that. You're just stoking the fires that wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. If you don't agree with the decision, that's up to you. You should just say, I don't agree. And that's fine. But you actively doing a call out and urging fans, like doing a whole like rallying cry to basically remove Expedition 33, from winning the competition, it's just poor play, man. It's just bad manners. I'm not calling out Arc Raiders. I'm not calling out Arc Raiders and telling them, hey, we should outvote to kick out Arc Raiders. Now, they should go in their own merit, and if they end up in, good. If they don't, oh well. There's not much we can do there. And yeah, people are saying, hear me out though, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Look at that. Come on in. You can't convince some people are gamers. The same type of people who literally just play COD and FIFA are like, I'm a gamer. Expedition 33 is Game of the Year. And, I can understand that, man. I play FIFA plenty, right? I still think Expedition 33 is my Game of the Year, right? And like I said, I'm pretty sure there are some people in his audience who played Arc Raiders who probably also think that Expedition 33 is Game of the Year. Or they think Kingdom Come Deliverance is Game of the Year. Or they think, you know, Kingdom Come, Donkey Kong Bonanza is Game of the Year, or, you know, all this stuff. It doesn't really matter at this point, man. Whatever happens, happens. If it happens, oh well. If it doesn't, oh well. But I just hate these bad manner kind of people, man. That's whatever. But in any case, that's kind of what I want to talk about. That's pretty much it. See ya. And I'll catch you on the next video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you later.